basic lofting. I'm going to do some other tutorials to get a little bit more complex. I just want to review this basic principle first. So I have a variety of different shapes here. Yes, they are all bottle looking things because I'm trying to keep this in the context of structural packaging and bottle design, but it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a bottle. I mean, this could be a table leg on a piece of furniture or whatever it might be. So you can do lots of different things. And I have this sort of little dummy cap on top just to sort of give us that bottle feeling. But this is just shape exploration using the tool for lofting. So in the command, you can put in an LOFT or under, I'd like to find out where the tools are. I'm trying to remember where they are. So under surface tools, down here, we have this kind of this wave looking thing. And that's our loft tool. It's very similar to this first loft that I did here. So let's start with that. I have a bunch of these sources over here on center. And so I'm going to start with these two curves that I have set up here. It's just a 3-point curve. I have one down here at the bottom and then one at the top. So let's put our command in first. LOFT, select loft, and it's saying select my curves. So I'm going to select this one at the bottom and select the one at the top, and then just press enter. Now there are some options here. I'm not going to delve too much into this at this point, but you can experiment with these. I normally just work with the normal setting because that usually works pretty well. So here I have this curve now that just blended the one curve from the top and to the one at the bottom. So that's just a surface. So that in itself, you can't really do much with that. But you can trim that, and I can mirror it around and start to stitch together and make other things. So that works out really well. And I have some other tutorials where I show how to do that. So another way to do that, this second one over here on the left, where I'm taking a circle and I'm lofting it into a square shape and then back into a circle again. So I have those sources set up here. I'm going to talk about the square for a second. So at the top view. So I made just a square, regular square, and this radius the corners. You can take the square with the points and you can loft it to a circle. It will work. But in bottle design, we know we need to soften up our edges here. So you have to go back in and radius that sharp corner to get that to be somewhat soft. And you can do it before and after. I like to do it before so it blends very nicely up into the circle. And we'll take a look at how that works. So those are a couple of options on how to do that. So this first one, I'm going to go from the bottom down here. Let's put the loft command in first. I'm going to go from a circle at the bottom. And I'm going to go to the square with the radius corners exactly in the middle. And then I'm going to this other circle at the top. So I don't need to hold shift or anything. I'm just selecting those because I have the loft tool ready to go. So all I have to do is press enter. That line that came up, what that's telling me is my sources are oriented, or it's actually asking me, do I like the way it's oriented? And those points are exactly along the side. So I had made these sources like that, and sometimes it'll figure it out for me. This is perfect because in bottle design, we always need to know where our parting line is. So that alignment there is where this surface is going to start and end, and it's going to be along the side of the bottle. It doesn't have to be there, but I like to keep it there because as I evolve these designs, I am going to put my parting line. I was going to turn these little, if you see these bottles, that dark black line along the side, that's where this line is ending up. And there is another one on the other side. The other one on the other side is an iso line. That's just part of the contour. It's a little lighter, but this darker one that's on the right-hand side of all these bottles is actually the alignment of those sources. That's what that means. So I like that, so I'm going to press enter. And again, I guess we could look at, I have it on normal, so let's do loose and let's see what happens. Okay, so it starts to change the proportions of these a little bit. Tight is probably going to be Well, tight looks the same as normal. And split tangents. I'm not even sure what that did. So normally will be what we need to do. I was going to say, okay, so there is that shape. So all these other contour lines in here are just the ISO lines. ISO lines, I mean, they're helping to define what that surface looks like. But you can see this dark line here over on the right is actually the alignment of those. So there it is, done. We got that shape. Got kind of a beautiful square section. I got my radiuses in here. So this is essentially a done part. All I have to do is cap the top and cap the bottom. And maybe there's some kind of a closure on there, and it's done. So it's a really effective tool. I really use this quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And this next one here, similar kind of a thing. But this time I'm going to use the square at the bottom. And I'm just going to go up to the circle at the top. So a good thing for this, a good way to use this tool is that sometimes you might have a stock closure and it's round and it's a certain diameter. And I have to work with that. And maybe the top of my bottle needs to be round so it can fit to that closure. But I want to do other contours. So I can use this lofting tool by locking that top circle to the size I need and then doing a variety of different sources to create some shapes. So I have, oops, didn't have my tool selected. So if you don't select the tool, then you'd have to use shift to get down. So I'm going to go up to loft, start with, select loft, and sources. I can do either one. I'm going to start with the top one this time. Select the circle, and then I'm going to select that square at the bottom with the radius corners, and then just press enter. And there's that alignment line. I like that it is. I'll press enter again. And there's our shape. So now it comes right down to a square bottom and up to a round top. I'm not emphasizing ruled surfaces on these designs. I just want to talk about lofting. A ruled surface is what we need to get a PSL label on a bottle shape where we have a ruled surface means it only curves in one axis, no compound curves. Now this is not bad. It's curving up at the top to a straight line. So I could probably flex a PSL, which is a pressure sensitive label. It's like putting a piece of paper on there. That would probably work. I could get away with that. But I would have to check that to make sure there's no compound curves there. This looks like it might work pretty well. Some of these other ones will not work because they are creating compound curves and they would have to be labeled in a different way. So I'm going to undo that. And now let's go to the this one right here in the middle. So I'm going from a circle to an oval to a circle at the top. Very similar to this first one. And I'll show the difference between these two and how to utilize this technique. This one, I have a negative curve from the closure to a positive curve in the middle, and then I go back to a negative shape at the bottom. So to do that, I need to add several sources. So we'll compare the difference between these two. I'm going to go up to my loft tool, loft. I'm going to select the bottom one. I'm going to select this next curve, this next circle right here, which is exactly the same circle. I just moved it up a little bit. Now, depending on how high I move that, that will affect this negative curve down here. So I just sort of guessed and said, okay, let me just try it about here. So I'm going to go those two circles at the bottom. It's asking me what I want to select because it's a couple of things, or someone say it's a curve. So when that comes up, so now I have those two selected. I'm going to select the oval in the middle, which is going to give me that wide area. And then I'm going to, not this circle, but I'm going to go to these other two at the top, which are exactly the same distance as the two at the bottom. So I'm going for this symmetrical top to bottom type of look by selecting these 5 sources. So those 5 sources together will give me this blend. So now I'm going to enter. And again, so now this line is telling me where my centers are. It's all kind of all along that one side in a straight line. So I like where that is. And I'm going to press enter. So now it gave me this beautiful blend. Now, sometimes if it isn't really nice, you have to move the sources around a little bit so you can get that nice blend. So I got a nice negative curve at the top, negative curve to the bottom, and then a positive curve in the middle. So let's take a look at this. Again, normal. we have that look. Now loose, probably just going to tighten it up. So it's just basically decreasing it. It's kind of generally blending that together a little less specific to what I had. And if I do tight, it's probably going to be edges. The tight looks very similar to what the original was. It might be curving a little bit more in the center. It's making adjustments to how it's blending that. So straight sections gives us this, which is, could be a design that I want. So for example, I'm blending from that center section up to the circle at the top. That could be a ruled surface. So let's say I want to put a label at the top and then another label at the bottom, perhaps, or just one or the other. I could do that now on that surface because it's not a compound curve. So let's just go back to normal. And there's our shape. Let's say OK. And that's very similar to that third design. So I'm going to jump to this first one over here because it's going to be almost similar to that one, but I'm just going to use less sources. So we'll go to Loft. So if I select this top circle, just one of them, and then I go to the oval, and then I go to the circle at the bottom. And then enter, and there's my alignment. So now I have this first design that we have in the alignment here. So it's almost the same as the other one, but just by adding that additional source, I get that negative curve that we had here in this middle design. So a lot of these things I'm showing are symmetrical top to bottom. So I have this other design in here where it's not symmetrical. And that's just another alignment of some of these sources. So let's see if I remember which ones I used here. I believe, let's try here. Let's go back to my command. Loft. So I'm going to start at the top. I know that's this one up here. I think what I did was I went to this lower one here. And then I went to my oval. And it looks like I just went to one of the circles down here at the bottom. So let's see how that works. Enter. There's my alignment. Enter. And that looks like it's it. Yeah, that's it. So there's that shape. So when I did my sources, go to top view. Like I said, I had them all on center. Now, if you notice, I just did this to keep the front edge straight up and the back edge straight up. So I had my circle, and all I did was take that circle and scaled it in one axis and made the oval out of it. And what that allowed me to do is keep the alignment front to back perfectly lined up. We don't have to do that. It's just I'm doing that. A lot of bottle designs start to lean into when they touch one another and they're on a shelf. We have a nice clean surface front to back. And this starts to talk about the conversation of a ruled surface. So I just sort of did that. And if I ever took any of these designs and I needed to do a PSL, I would have to do quite a bit of work to get that to be a ruled surface on the front. Because right now it's a compound surface. I mean, right here in the middle, I could probably stick a little something. But if I wanted my label to go almost out here and follow that shape, I would have to build this with a different technique. And I have another tutorial on that where I'm actually lofting front to back. It's a whole nother way of doing lofting. And so that's also a really, really good technique. All right, so that's basic lofting in this kind of vertical from top to bottom type of approach. How to do that with closed sources and open sources, open curves.